You need to take the bull by the horn, so to speak, of the time that you have, because if you don't, you're that leaf in the wind. I'm saying there's a lot of lost time and inefficiencies, and dude, time, we can make money and lose money. You can't get time back. Like, it's here and it's gone. Like, at the end of this podcast, we can't get back this last 30 to 60 minutes. Like we used it how we used it. Sometimes we spend time and energy on things that make us feel like we're making progress because we're avoiding the work that makes us uncomfortable. Let's do a health check on where you're spending your time. It's that important. All right, my friends, we are going to kick this episode off with a bang. So guys, I'm super pumped to have you join us here. I believe this is the 11th Storage Wins podcast episode of season 2, where I have been coaching Dan Wenzel live. And if you're just joining us, or if you just recently discovered this podcast and you're kind of tuning in halfway, so to speak, after this podcast, I want to encourage you to do 2 things. Subscribe to the Storage Wins podcast. By the way, if you can leave it, selfish plug here, if you can leave a rating and review, that would be amazing, but I want to make sure it's earned. Number 2, go back and listen to the journey so far, because we've covered so much ground. And, you know, there are times when we decide and commit to do something and we set out to accomplish something that is meaningful to us for a variety of reasons, whatever that may be. I always tell people, and I've shared this with Dan, is that you are going to be met with resistance. There's going to be friction. There's going to be challenges. And my belief is that that is the universe in many ways, I think, testing you. How bad do you want something? Dan and I were just talking offline how I've been training jiu-jitsu now for, I don't know, 6 months or so, maybe 7 months. And it's a very physical sport. Obviously, it's very challenging mentally. And it's one of those things that you go in sometimes and it's a battle, but you come out feeling like, I'm glad I did that. I put myself in very uncomfortable situations and positions. I was able to work through some things, and you just gain confidence. Deciding to do storage is no different. It's obviously not as physical, but it can be challenging at times. And sometimes you feel like you have progress and momentum, and then life gets in the way or things happen. You get slowed down, and then it's almost as difficult, sometimes more difficult, to get back on that momentum train. So I don't know where Dan stands. Last episode, we talked about, I challenged him with certain non-negotiables. Dan, I said, Dan, these are the things I want you to do. I want to start to pick up more progress and momentum. And so I want to start this episode with just give it to us. Like, give us a recap. And you know that I've always told you, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right, but we need to be real, authentic, and vulnerable. And as difficult as it may be. And you know that this is like a zero judgment zone, right? But I want you to be real. So, and I don't know what you're going to say. So last week we talked about shifting your energy and simplifying your approach. So I want to zoom out. Give us an overview of how the last 7 days went for you. And then specifically, I want to hear about the non-negotiables that I challenge you with. And to recap, and you let me know if I'm missing any, I challenge you to send 3 offers out in the last 7 days. I challenge you to have 15 meaningful conversations. Now, as an aside, like I always say meaningful conversations, and you might think to yourself, well, what does that mean, Alex? To me, a meaningful conversation is a conversation you have with a storage owner or with a key person, right? Somebody like a potential partner, equity partner, lender, banker, etc., where you're actually able to have a back and forth dialogue about that is aligned with your goal to buy a storage facility. Or if we're talking about a storage owner, they have interest in selling, or they would consider an offer, and you're able to get into a dialogue. What is not a meaningful conversation? Hey, I'm not interested in selling, click. Or just something that's not of any substance. I think you could just kind of use your judgment on what that is. Dan, I also challenge you to analyze 5 deals. And then we talked a little bit about just kind of your tracking system, how we can make some tweaks to your follow-up system, your lead tracker. We talked about the 9-word email and how awesome it is to send the 9-word email to re-engage your cold leads and people that maybe you haven't heard. And the 9-word email, if you don't know and you're hearing this for the first time, was made famous by an amazing marketer called Dean Jackson. And the 9-word email is a very simple attention grabbing subject line. And then it's just in the body of the email. Are you still interested in ... Insert whatever it is. So are you still interested in selling your storage facility? Are you still considering an offer for your facility? Something that gets them to respond and open the door to a conversation. So we talked about that. Now, with that said, brother, this is where I hand the baton over to you, and I do far less talking than what I've done so far. Give us an update, an overview about the last week. I want to hear, you know me, I want to start with wins. What went well? So what can we draw upon? Even if you don't think you made progress, there's something positive you can draw from last week that can start to give you progress and momentum moving forward. So how did last week go? And then start with the wins before you give us the overall update.
Sure. So the wins would be that I have continued building my list of owners who are ready to sell, and my VA keeps bringing me deals, which is great. So that's been huge. I have a couple of those leads who I've had great conversations with, and I just signed an NDA this morning for one of them, and they're going to send me the info I want to see so I can analyze the deal. And as far as the targets that we were aiming for, I didn't quite get to those to achieve all of them, but worked on them and got as far as I could.
Okay.
So there were 15-minute meaningful conversations. I got up to 7, and that was partly because spent some time digging into some of the deals and getting offers out. Well,
before we get into the specifics of each one, just give us a quick rundown. So how many offers did you get out last week?
Yeah, I take that back. I got one offer out last week. It was an actual LOI and not just like a soft offer on the phone.
Okay. Okay, so you got one offer. Yeah, go ahead.
Underwrite 5 deals. I got to underwrite 2 of them, and I dug into some of those pretty deep, and I think that prevented me from maybe doing more than 2.
Okay.
9-word email. I didn't get to do those, so it was kind of rough, I guess, if you look at how I did versus the target numbers. But it wasn't that it wasn't a productive week. It was still, I feel like, making steps forward and making progress.
And that right there is the key. So while you didn't hit the numbers that we were aiming for, you didn't hit those non-negotiables. And we're going to transition and get into a moment here, like what were the roadblocks? What slowed you down? What got in the way? We'll get to that in a second. But I think it's important that we highlight and celebrate the fact that, like, hey, while you didn't hit the goal, you still felt like you made progress and momentum towards your goals. What we want to eliminate is just staying flat or even worse, going in the wrong direction. We want to make sure that we're getting at least 1% better each day, because the compound effect takes place. Like if you just get 1% better each day, think about how much more you would have accomplished. And so what I'm glad I didn't hear is that you didn't make progress on any of these. You made progress on all of them. You just didn't quite hit the targets that we were aiming for. Okay, so I think that's to be acknowledged and celebrated. Now, how can we make some improvements? How can we make some modifications? And that could be that could be an internal thing. That could be externally. What would you say prevented you from hitting the targets, the non-negotiables that we talked about? And let's kind of take it one by one. So you mentioned a couple times that you went pretty deep on 2, like the target was 5. You analyzed 2 deals, you underwrote 2 deals, and you went pretty deep there. What would you say prevented you from getting to 5? What slowed you down, if anything?
Last week, man, I don't have a great answer other than
Oh, don't worry, I'll drag it out of you.
I was trying to chase down a couple owners, and who are ready to sell, who I've been in contact with for year and a half plus, and I had some conversations with them, but it was with the wife, and I was trying to get with the husband, talk to the husband about the financials, and I had some other long conversations, but man, I don't know.
All right. That's not
I felt like I was working on it the whole time, but
that's not it. So that chasing down, first of all, you never want to chase anybody. That's number one. And maybe you meant that more as a figure of speech. I don't know. But you trying to chase down some owners and collecting some information and having some long conversations, that isn't what got in the way. Let's drill down. Something got in the way last week at least. And by the way, would you say last week was a normal working calendar week for you? Like you weren't traveling, there wasn't anything that blew up in your life that like if you're being honest, would you say last week was just a normal week more or less?
yeah, it was a pretty normal week, more or less.
Okay, fair enough. So there's something getting in the way of you hitting these numbers, because here's the one thing I know is that if you consistently every single week, if you have those meaningful conversations and you're analyzing deals and you're sending offers, I know and I feel very confident on it that if you just do that week in and week out consistently, you're giving yourself so many opportunities that it's not if, it's when you go under contract. It's when you find that first facility. So something tells me there's something going on in just the day-to-day and how you're approaching your working day and or the time that you're spending that can be improved. Let me pause there. Would you say that you would agree with that statement? Would you disagree with that? Do you feel like there's things in how you approach each day in terms of where you're spending the time that you have on storage that can be improved, tweaked, modified to help you hit these KPIs?
Yeah, there are.
And what would you say those are?
I blinked and last week just went by, and
You're not sure. You feel. I sense that you're.
don't have a great answer for you.
Okay. Well, let's look at where you spent your time last week.
Yeah, one thing that's kind of funny is I feel like I have so many deals right now that are sort of around the same point that it's kind of overwhelming and hard to keep track of them. And so just trying to stay on top of each of them has been difficult in and of itself.
Okay. When you say you have a lot of deals, and let's start to unpack that a little bit, because it sounds like you're spending a lot of your time working these opportunities. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
If I was sitting next to you, or if I was a fly in the wall and watching you work last week, where were you spending the bulk of your time and energy as it relates to storage?
In my underwriting spreadsheet, probably, mostly.
Okay. And so you're telling me that, and I'm not asking this, it's not a leading question, but you told me you underwrote two deals and the goal was 5. Did you spend most of last week underwriting 2 deals?
I don't know what happened last week.
Dude, it's all right. It's all right. But I want to start to, more than anything, it's okay. It starts with the awareness that, hey, this is what I got accomplished. We celebrated that. This was the target. Okay, we're here. This is our reality. This is where we want to go. Now let's figure out what are the roadblocks that are getting in the way. What is slowing you down? So again, release the pressure valve here. This isn't for you to feel bad about it. It's just, now let's start to let's build on this. Let's figure out how can we make this week much more productive. Or I should say, let me modify what I just said, even more productive than last week. How do we start to build on it? And in order to do that, we need to be honest and get clear about what are the things getting in our way, right? Like you were telling me prior to recording that you were a swimmer, right? And did you swim competitively?
Yep.
Did you have a coach?
Yep.
Okay, I would imagine at practice, he would coach you and he would give you certain feedback, whether it was technique, form, whether it was whatever it was, he would coach you. What would happen if you didn't have that and you just like swam when you wanted to and then you showed up to a meet or something? Like, and you didn't have that guidance and direction. So what I want to do now is like, we're in between when you started and the meet. Like the meet in our world is like going under contract and eventually closing on that storage facility. Let's start to identify, is it a technique thing? Is it, and I'm using the parallels of swimming, but I don't think it's a technique thing per se, but I think you know where I'm going with this. So let's start to unpack and figure out what is slowing you down. I asked you a question. It sounds like you spent, because you're working how many hours a day on storage?
About 5.
Okay, about 5. So you're working 25 hours a week on storage. Would you say roughly that's about what you worked last week?
Yeah.
Okay, so 25 hours spent. And I asked you, and I'll kind of ask you again, maybe a little bit differently, but of those 25 hours, and be honest, how much time would you say you spent in the spreadsheet on those 2 particular deals?
Man, I don't know.
Your best guess.
Maybe 6 hours.
Okay. So you spent 6 hours underwriting those 2 deals? Is that right, Dan?
That sounds right.
Okay. So where'd you spend the other 19 hours?
Man, it beats me. I will tell you, one of the leads, I've had several conversations with them, with the owners, and I've been trying to pick through the information I've already gotten from them and the info I still want from them, so I can talk like I sound like I know what I'm talking about and we're not covering the same information again. So you're going to tell me you ought to stop preparing so much for phone calls, but I mean, if I picked up the phone and called them and didn't review the notes and like try to plan out that phone call, I just don't know how I would be as productive on that phone call.
So of the 19 hours, how much of that time did you spend preparing for a phone call? Honestly.
Maybe 2.
Okay, so 2 of the 19 was spent preparing for phone calls. Not that. Are you talking about that particular phone call?
For that,
or any phone call?
For that call.
Okay, how much time would you spend if we were gonna just give me a full number of prep to phone call? How much time did you spend preparing for phone calls?
That was really the one that
Okay.
prepared for the most. Like cold calls, I'll just pick up the phone and go into it because I know what to talk about. But
Right.
follow-up calls, I don't want to waste their time, and I want to get out of it what I want to get out of it, so it moves it forward. So,
as an aside, and by the way, as an aside, I want you. I love that you're thinking about them and their time. I also want you to think about you and your time. I also want to hear. I don't want to waste my time either. Right?
but also it's not worth having the phone call if like I'm like, oh hey, I have to call them back half hour after I get off the phone with them because I didn't get 3 of the pieces of information I wanted to get, or whatever
Okay.
it might be. That
Yeah, I still think you're totally overthinking that process, right? Because there's only like how many pieces of information do we have to get from a storage owner to analyze the deal and make an offer?
Right. Yeah, not that many.
So we only need but 2 or 3 pieces of information to be able to really, we need, if you really want to get down to it, we really just need 1, maybe 2 pieces of information to analyze a deal. Obviously, to make an offer, it'd be nice if we had more data, but we really only need 2 or 3 pieces of information. So I still think this is more of a mental thing than it is a tactical thing, and that you just don't feel confident or have enough confidence in yourself right now to be able to pick up the phone and have a conversation with somebody without spending so much time preparing. So I still think there's areas for improvement there and that we're going to need to get over that hump. But what I'm trying to do is unpack where you spent the bulk of your time. Because right now, you worked 25 hours last week. 6 of them were spent on underwriting. 2 were spent preparing for 1 call, which, by the way, is a lot of prep time for 1 call. Okay? So as an aside, so what are we at? So that's 17-hour balance. Where'd you spend the rest of the 17 hours?
Made a handful of calls, and had some conversations.
So you don't know. You're not sure where the seven.
I don't know, man.
Okay, no. Okay, and I can tell that there's maybe a little bit of frustration on your end that you're like, dude, I don't know. I want you to do this exercise all of this week, and we're already almost at the beginning. We're recording this on a Monday, and it's almost end of day. At least for me, you're on the Pacific time zone. So here's what I want you to do. And I realize that this is not going to be a fun. Some might call it a somewhat tedious task, but I can tell you that it's going to be so beneficial for you. Here's what I want you to do. On a simple spreadsheet, I want you every 15 minutes. So you're going to have 4 data entries per hour, and you're working 5 hours, right? So essentially you're going to have 20 data points, 20 lines on the spreadsheet. Every 15 minutes, I want you to document what you spent your time on. Every 15 minutes. So put a timer on. 15 minutes, I want you to document on a spreadsheet, bullet point format. Like, don't write a dissertation. Like, this doesn't have to be prepared for. Just write, hey, I worked on last 15 minutes, I made 2 calls. Whatever it is. I had 1 conversation. Document what you did every 15 minutes. I'm going to foreshadow. I want you to do that every day for an entire week. So you can do this by columns. So if I were you, top to bottom on the first column, you can just put, whenever you start your day, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, 9:15, then 30, 40, then 45, then the hour mark, all the way down to when you typically end your day. And then just every single day at the top, you're going to have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. By the end of that day, next week, what we'll do, I'm just going to foreshadow for you. You're going to color code, and there's going to be 4 categories. What were the things that you spent time? And by the way, if that was, hey, I spent, 8 minutes on Instagram scrolling, document that. Like, you have to be honest and real with yourself. If you went to the bathroom for 15 minutes, document that. I'm dead serious, right? I'm dead. I know you're laughing. I'm dead serious. Document everything you do for 15 minutes. Why? At the end of that week, we're going to have a lot of data, and it's going to tell a story. And then what I'm going to have you do is color code the things that were revenue generating activities as it relates to your storage business, the things that were non-revenue generating, the things that you enjoyed that were revenue generating, and the things that you didn't enjoy that were non-revenue generating. Essentially, we're going to start to figure out, hey, how efficient are you with your time? Are you spending your time and energy on the things that move the needle? Where are the inefficiencies? Where are the leaks in the bucket or the holes in the boat? Because right now, the fact that you're not able to account for 17 or so hours, maybe 15 hours, that tells me that there's no plan for the day. That you're kind of waking up and you're you have your process and you have your way to get into things. But dude, I could go back to last week and I could tell you pretty much by the hour where I spent all my time. But I think I got there, and it's not because I'm some genius or I have some, it's just I'm operating with intentionality. I'm mapping out the day in the week before I even get to the day in the week. You know this, but I'll have a meeting with my assistant on bookends, Mondays and Fridays. On Fridays, we look at the calendar for the week, for the upcoming week. And we say, hey, what's most important that is aligned with the goals? And we first start by the revenue generating activities, right? We make sure that that's mapped out on the calendar, and that's color coded. For us, it's color coded in green. Green for money, revenue generating activities. Then we look at, okay, podcast and me coaching. And so our Storage Wins weekly coaching calls, that's in orange. Boom. Podcast, coaching calls, that's all in orange. So it's mapped out. So I can look at the calendar for the week and say, hey, I don't see that much green. And I'm seeing too much of for us, which is a reddish color, just meetings. I'm seeing way too many meetings. I'm not seeing enough greens. Okay, that needs to change. So I need you to be in control of your calendar and your time, because if you're not in control of your time, others will dictate your time for you. And you start to operate with more intentionality before the day in the week comes. And right now, I don't get the sense that you're doing that. You ever seen a leaf on a windy day? Like there's no way to predict which way it's gonna go. It's where's the wind like blowing, right? And it could be going this way, and all of a sudden it's like off in this direction. To me, that is waking up and operating without a plan and without intentionality. And I do realize that you do have some type of plan and system. I just don't think it's as dialed in as what I'd like it to be, because if you're not able to account for 70% of your working hours last week, and the week kind of just got away from you, that's an alarm going off saying, hey, let's figure this out so that we can be more productive with our time. Let me kind of pause there. Does that land? Does that resonate with you? Are there any questions or concerns around that?
I completely get what you're saying. I feel like I still made progress last week on some things. Trying to write down or remember what all those things were that I spent time on is just the difficult part.
Yeah, no, dude, I get it.
Between having a child and
brother, I get it.
Just life.
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it, man. Trust me. I hear you. And by the way, I'm not immune to this. Like, there's been weeks that I've gotten big time off track, but then I have a process and a system to recalibrate. And for me, that's my bookend meetings with my assistant, where, hey, okay, on Friday, not only do we look ahead, but we look back. Hey, what went well? Where did I get off track? Okay, when I have gotten off track, let's identify what took me off track. Do I need to? And then I ask myself 4 questions on the things that got me off track. Was it just like a one-off life thing? And then, okay, well, how do I bake in some margin for those things to occur? Understanding that sometimes, hey, all of a sudden the kid wakes up with 102 fever and like they're not off to school, and like, now give yourself some grace for those life things that happen, dude. That's okay. But if you're constantly putting out a fire, are you the arsonist? Right? And I'm not saying you're an arsonist, by the way, but you know what I mean. Like,
right.
You need to take the bull by the horn, so to speak, of the time that you have, because if you don't, you're that leaf in the wind. So I'm encouraging you and challenging you to do this exercise, even though it's not necessarily fun and maybe somewhat, it's like something else to do. I promise you, at the end of the week, we're going to have so many data points. We're going to have essentially 100 data points, right? If you're working 5 hours a day, every 15 minutes, that's 20 data points a day times 5 days. That's 100 data points. Dude, we're going to know where you're spending your time and your energy. And we're going to be able to like look at the map and then color code it and say, okay, you're not spending enough time on the green activities, the meaningful conversations, analyzing deals, connecting, making relationships, sending offers. Like, there's maybe we identify 12% of your week is spent on revenue generating activities, and all of a sudden you're spending 15% on preparing for calls. It's like, okay, no, things have to shift. And how is your current calendar and setup? How is that in alignment or not in alignment with your current goals? So if you were to keep doing your process now, this like week in, week out, are you going to get closer to your first deal? So if we don't like wrap our arms around this, I'm not saying you can't eventually have success. I'm saying there's a lot of lost time and inefficiencies. And dude, time, we can make money and lose money. You can't get time back. Like, it's here and it's gone. Like, at the end of this podcast, we can't get back this last 30 to 60 minutes. Like we used it how we used it. So I really want you to be intentional about the time you have and protecting that space. Just like you're concerned about not wasting the seller's time, I want you to be equally concerned, if not more, with wasting your time.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So are any questions about that exercise? Is there any friction that comes up in that process? Are you committed to doing that?
Yeah, that's no problem. It makes me think back on last week. I spent a chunk of time, that couple hours, preparing for that one phone call. And like we touched on last week, I told you how important I feel like it is to build rapport with the seller, connect with them, and try to do that as much as I can. So, I want them to like me. So people do business with people they like. And I mean, if it's really not as important as I thought it was, then I mean, I know there's only a couple key pieces of information I need to make an offer. And
Yeah.
And if it's not worth putting a lot of time into preparing for the call, you just call and get that info you need and get to know the person a little bit, then
Let me share this.
I mean, I can see a shift there.
I certainly think there needs to be a shift, but it doesn't need to be all or nothing. I don't want you to turn off the human side of you, that it's like, hey, I'm just going to be robotic. I'm just going to call, get some information, and I'm going to bounce. I'm off the call. Let's not pretend like there's not a hybrid in the middle. Building rapport is important. And I think in your head, you've made it out more important than it needs to be. In other words, yes, we want to build rapport. Yes, we want to connect with a person. Yes, it's true that it is said that people do business with people they know, like, and trust, and people that instill confidence in them. And that pendulum has swung way too far for you. I think you're too focused on building rapport, as a result, making you feel like you need to spend hours to prepare for a call in order to build rapport. What I'm saying is, yes, build rapport, but dude, just make it a part of who you are and how you communicate with people anyway. In other words, and I realize that maybe different personalities and the way that I do it isn't necessarily a right or a wrong, just like with you. So I'm not telling you to be me. I want you to be Dan Wenzel. There's only one Dan Wenzel. Be that guy that God created you to be. Don't be Alex Pardo. Don't be anybody else. What I'm asking you to take from the way that I approach this is that I don't go into calls with sellers, whether I've talked to them 3 times, 10 times, or I've never talked. I don't go in thinking, I need to build rapport. I need to build rapport. Let me prepare and let me get all this. Dude, I'm just being myself. And in that process, I already know I'm going to build rapport because I'm being myself. I'm going to connect with the other person. And you don't need to have my personality type or my communication style. Everything you currently have works for you. You just got to make it work for you. Take the pressure off. Stop thinking so much about building rapport and just build rapport. You don't have to make people like you. People will like you or they don't. Let go of that result and outcome. That has nothing to do with you. Dude, you're a super likable person. There's probably, you could probably count on a finger or two how many people dislike you. If that. Am I right or wrong? How many people can you think of like you? Honestly.
I don't know. I don't keep track of that.
Okay, great. Don't keep track of this either.
Yeah.
Try a different approach, because that classic definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. You keep approaching these calls feeling like you have to over prepare so that the owners can like you, because if they don't like you, they're not going to do business with you. Dude, at the end of the day, yes, you want the owners to like you, but who cares if they don't? Can you solve their problem? Are you the best buyer for them? Can you present and communicate with confidence a solution that makes sense to them, that works for them and also works for you? It's not about there's very few sellers that I've become friends with, buddy. Now, every seller I've worked with, I've built a good relationship, working relationship with them, and I've built great rapport with them. But I didn't, that's like going on a date and saying, I really want her to like me. Guess what? If you go into it with that and you're so focused on that, she's probably not going to like you because you're going to come across too needy and you're going to be chasing her, right? I don't know if we talked about that analogy of what happens when you chase a dog. What happens when you chase a dog?
Runs away.
Okay. What happens if you stop and then you start running the other way?
It chases you.
The dog chases you. Dude, this is no different. Right now, you're chasing the seller. You want them to like you. You're too respectful of their time. You don't want to waste their time. You want them to like you. You want to build so much rapport so that eventually they can sell you the facility. I want you to change that mindset. Change it completely. Just be yourself and trust that by being yourself and communicating with that person, rapport will happen in the process. Rapport is not some box that we check off and say, oh, I built rapport with that person. Okay, cool. But I think right now that's the sense I get from what you've shared with me, Dan, is that you're making it such an emphasis, such a point to like build rapport so that they can like you. You need to get, you're overthinking how much data you need to collect. Dude, you know what to collect. Dan, I'm selling my storage facility. What info do you need to make me an offer? By the way, I only have 60 seconds here because I got to run another meeting. And if you're not able to get this info, we'll never talk again.
Revenue.
Okay, revenue is $20,000 a month. Anything else?
I can go with just that. If that's all
Okay,
you
well,
got.
I got another 40 seconds here if you want to take advantage of it. What else do you need?
Okay. Occupancy.
Occupancy right now, 73%.
Okay.
Got 30 seconds left. What else do you need? By the way, I'm exaggerating. This doesn't really happen on a live seller call, but I'm proving a point. You got 25 seconds now.
Unit mix.
Unit mix. Okay, I got 10 5x5s, 12 5x10s, 3 10x15s, and 7 10x20s. Anything else? You got 10 seconds?
I can go with just that.
You could have gone with just the revenue number. Now, the more data we can collect, yes, it makes it easier for us for sure. And we can really craft and dial in the offer. And by the way, I want to pause and just make it crystal clear for those listening and watching. That is not how a typical seller calls. Seller doesn't put you on a clock and say, hey, I got 30 seconds. What info do you need? I'm just illustrating a point that like, you don't need to prepare for a call. Dan already knew what questions to ask. What's your revenue, right? What's the unit mix? Now, the one question you didn't ask that I think would have been good to ask is, hey, what are your current rates? Now, that doesn't prevent you from analyzing the deal and making an offer. It's helpful when we know what the unit mix and the rates are so that we can go out to the market, figure out where the average street rates are, and then compare, hey, how much room do we have to go up? But, dude, I can get that info in 30 seconds. Now, right. I understand the reality that the seller sometimes doesn't have the data and they have to think about it. Like, I get all that, dude. But, like, my point is, and hopefully it's landing with you, you don't need to prepare to get that. You just don't, because you already know what data to ask. Is that helpful at all? What are you taking away from this part of the conversation so far?
Yeah, I follow it. Just got to get on the phone and make it simple.
No, but I don't feel like maybe you're still processing that. Like, but what about what I've shared with you, if anything, do you feel resistance towards? Because I realize that's not your current approach, and I get that anytime you're doing something that's not what you're comfortable with, you've never done it, so it feels a little uncomfortable. But when you hear me share everything I've shared in the last 5-10 minutes, what comes up for you that like feels like, that's difficult, or I don't want to do that, or I can't do that, or like what comes up for you?
I've had some conversations with owners where I'll ask them the same question more than once, and they'll start to get agitated and like, okay, I guess I need to make sure I review the notes that we've talked about before our call so they don't get ticked off again.
What notes do you have to review? That's what I don't understand. Like, what would you ask them more than
for
once?
Instance?
Like, yeah, give me.
I asked him if he was open to seller it was not around seller financing. It was, I don't remember off the top of my head, but one of the terms of the deal I had mentioned once before, and I brought it up again. He's like, if I have to tell you again, then I'm going to be something, I don't know, feeling angry.
So wait, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong. That sounds like a one-off situation. Does that happen on most conversations where they get agitated because you've asked them more than once? Or is this more of a one-off scenario?
A recent one-off scenario.
Okay, it's a recent one. So this is not out of every 20 conversations you have, this is happening one time out of every how many conversations does this happen?
Not very often.
Okay, so this is something made up in your head. This is not an issue. This is just one seller that got agitated because you asked them a question more than once. This is a nothing burger. There's nothing to talk about here. Like, so I know you're grasping at straws to give me a reason you need to prepare. Here's the real answer. It makes you feel comfortable. That's all it is, but it's not helping you move forward. There's too much inefficiency in preparing for these calls, which is just not necessary. It really isn't. And I know that we've got,
I follow you.
Yeah. And dude, I share this with you, dude, and with like, in a loving way, brother. Like, there's zero judgment here. I want you to continue to progress and advance. And last week you acknowledged, hey, I did make progress. I want to speed up that progress and I want you to have more of it. And one way to do that is let's identify where you're spending your time and where are the inefficiencies. One of those inefficiencies that we've put a magnifying glass on for the last couple of weeks is your need to feel like you have to spend 2 hours preparing for one call. Totally inefficient, totally not necessary. It's just not. There's just not that much information you need going into these calls. I could literally spend 60 seconds reviewing my notes, which AI summarizes for me. Look at 5 to 7 bullet points and I got the full picture. And by the way, like, thank God you're a young man, healthy mind, sound body. Dude, you're going to read 5 bullet points and it's going to jog your memory as to the last conversation you had with them. Sometimes we find ourselves, and I say we because I've been there, sometimes we find ourselves spending time and energy on things that make us feel like we're making progress because we're avoiding the work that makes us uncomfortable. I want to kind of pause there for a second. Did that resonate? Sometimes we spend time and energy on things that make us feel like we're making progress because we're avoiding the work that makes us uncomfortable. And by the way, most of the time, the magic we're seeking is in the work we're avoiding.
Very familiar with that.
Okay.
Elaborate.
Talk to me about that.
The things we want are on the other side of the things that we don't want to do. There's a more eloquent way to say that, but it's basically the same thing.
Personalize it.
For instance,
yeah, go ahead.
For someone who doesn't like doing cold calls, maybe cold calls are the answer to get them to the next step of.
Okay. Yeah, I hear you, but I want to hear, how does this relate to you? In other words, do you feel like you're spending time preparing for calls because you don't want to pick up the phone and have that conversation with the seller?
No, I don't have a problem picking up the phone and how.
I didn't think so. So what is it then? What are you, you're spending so much time in this one area that I think you've come around to, unless you're just telling me what you think I want to hear, which I don't, that's not you. Let's start here. Would you agree that spending 2 hours to prepare for one phone call is not necessary and highly inefficient?
I could see why that would be.
Okay. Why do you choose to continue to do that? What is it you're avoiding?
For the times I have done it, I feel like I have great conversations and get the pieces of info that I want from them, and I make a great impression on them. And when I hang up the phone, I'm like, damn, that went really well. We moved our conversation forward exactly how I wanted to, up until the point where I haven't gotten under contract yet.
Okay. So does that prove to you that it doesn't matter how much they like you or how much of an impression you made, that at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, yes, by the way, I am not understating the importance of building rapport and connecting with a person. That's important. That's a key piece of this equation. But at the end of the day, dude, like, all pieces of the puzzle have to fit in this equation for you to work with somebody and for them to work with you. You're so hyper focused on one aspect of it that you're running up against a barrier when it comes to the number, the deal structure. You can't make it make sense based on what they're asking, that it's stopping all progress and momentum, at least at that point. And then hopefully it remains in your follow-up system. What I'm here to argue, and I don't mean argue in the sense of like back and forth argue, but like what I'm an advocate of in my belief is that in that 45-minute conversation you had with the seller, not to mention the 2 hours you spent prepping, I feel like myself and others can connect with that person just as well in a 10 to 15 or 20-minute conversation, get exactly what we need and keep it moving forward. I just have that inherent confidence and belief in myself, and that's what I want you to borrow from me for now. That you don't need to, you can still accomplish everything you want and not have to prepare for the conversation. To me, I think it's an excuse that you're telling me that you keep saying, I need to get this key piece of information. I need to get this info. Dude, you already know what to get. You don't have to prepare to know what to get. You already know what to get. We just went through it in 60 seconds. It's the stuff in the middle that you want to spend so much time and energy on, because I think you've over-indexed how important it is to build that rapport. Yes, it's important, and you can do it in far less time.
Yeah, that's not just like, I want to make sure I build as much rapport as possible, and that's the only thing I want to focus on the whole phone call. It's knowing what they've shared with me in the past. It's knowing, like, if I've had 4 long conversations with an owner, I want to at least sound like I remember those conversations. When you have 30 conversations or 20 conversations in a week, whatever it is, I mean, they start to all get jumbled together. I just want to make sure I know what I'm talking about.
I totally get that. By the way, do you have any are these calls recorded at all? Or do you have any type of, okay, so these calls are not recorded. Okay, got it. Here's what I want you to do. While you're having these phone calls, you're jotting some notes down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's what I want you to do. At the end of that call, take a highlighter. If you're writing them, I don't know if you're using your iPad. If you are using your iPad, you can still highlight it. Just circle or highlight the 5 key pieces that summarize that conversation. 3 to 5 pieces, no more. Like, you're not allowed to circle or highlight more than 3. I would say 3 is more than enough. If you want to go to 5, fine. But so that you can look at it and boom, like you know right where you're at. And I would encourage you that if I had to say what to highlight, it's anything personal or memorable that they may have mentioned that you can reference back. They just got back from Disneyland. They just spent time with their granddaughter. Their kids are in town. They just came back from a vacation, or they're going on something memorable that you might be able to bring up in conversation. Okay? Why they might consider selling. In other words, their motivation. They want to retire, they're tired, they're done, they're mentally, what is it about their situation? Any nuances or details about the facility and about what they'd like to see accomplished. And dude, that's pretty much it. Like, if I just look at my notes from a previous conversation, in fact, brother, I do that every single week with you, by the way, is I look back, like, in preparation of next week's call, which will take me 5 minutes max, literally max. Why? Because I already know where we've had conversations. I know where you're at. Yes, I look at just a quick like summary of the transcript. Hey, summarize our last podcast coaching call in 5 bullet points. What are the key highlights that are going to act as memory joggers? Boom, I see that. It takes me right back to it. I know exactly where you're at. I knew that last week we talked about, and I had remembered it anyway, but it was one of the main bullet points. Hey, you challenged Dan with the non-negotiables. Here they were. I might have spent 5 minutes preparing for that. but I could have easily done it in 2 minutes. So that's what I want. Just trust me and test it for the next couple of weeks. When you feel the urge to spend all this time preparing, stop yourself and say, my time is golden. It's scarce. It's here today and it's gone in a minute. I have to take advantage. My family depends on me to be as efficient as possible with my time. And the majority of this time needs to be advancing on the things that are aligned with my goals. And what's going to move the needle for you are continuing to have your VA bring you generate leads and bring you opportunities, you having those meaningful conversations in an efficient way, analyzing more deals, and sending more offers. Brother, do that consistently. And I'm telling you, it's not if, it's when. And can I guarantee a result for you? Of course not, right? I'm not God. I can't guarantee a result, but in my experience and those that have had success doing this that I've worked with, it's a mindset and a belief system. It's plugging into our plan and process, and it's just committing to do the work daily and weekly consistently, and the efforts and results will compound over time. You just have to trust that. But part of this, I think, is we need to account for where are you spending your time. Let's figure out how much of that, what percentage of your time are you spending on the revenue generating activities? What percentage of your time are you spending on the inefficient activities? And then it becomes simple to map out a game plan moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You ever driven a car and like the oil or the check engine light, boom, I have a Tesla, so I don't have that. But like, you know, like the check engine comes on. Dude, it's just telling you like, hey, you got to take your car to the doctor. Right? All of a sudden, like you're walking and you start having chest pains and you can't breathe. It's like, dude, your body is warning. Those are warning signals. Like, hey, something's wrong here. Like, let's get this checked out. Going through this exercise, and I realize I'm being overly dramatic and comparing the two, but this is what we're doing. We're saying, hey, let's do a health check on where you're spending your time. It's that important. Let's do it. Let's run a diagnostic here. Let's take it into the body shop and figure out why the check engine light is on. Right now, your storage engine light is on, but not, even though you're making progress, and so I'm overstating it, but like there are certain things you're doing that if we just shifted that time and energy to other things, you're going to find more progress and momentum, even more than you have now. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So several things I wanted to touch on in this episode, but as you know, man, sometimes we have to hit the pause button and address certain things. It's kind of like the slingshot, dude. It's like you start here and then you pull it back. Like today, we were pulling it back so that I can then let you go and you can like just rock it forward. That's the idea here. So here's what I want to hear from you before we move on, or before we wrap up this episode, I should say. What did you hear? Like, what was most useful or helpful for you about the last 50-something minutes of this coaching session, this podcast episode? So what was most useful for you or helpful? And then what do you commit to do moving forward?
That my time is too scarce to spend it on non-revenue generating activities.
Okay.
Like making calls to owners, underwriting deals, and I will no longer spend more than 10 minutes preparing for a call.
Well, first of all, you don't need 10 minutes, but at least that's progress. But
Progress.
I'd really love to get you at least to 5 minutes further. Work with me here, man. 10 minutes. I mean, that's precious time. But say it with your chest, because you didn't say it with a lot of conviction.
I'll no longer spend more than 5 minutes preparing for a call.
I love it. I love it. Storage wins, audience, community members, you guys heard it here. Connect with Dan on social media. Find him, Dan Wenzel. Find him in the Storage Wins Facebook group and ask him if he is spending more than 5 minutes preparing for phone calls. Okay? I want you guys to help me be his accountability partner. I'm dead serious. Find Dan in the Storage Wins Facebook group, which, by the way, if you're not a part of that, it's 100% free to join. We'll include a link in the show notes below. But make sure, help me be his accountability partner. Ask him how it's going. How many meaningful conversations has he had? How many deals is he analyzing? How many offers has he sent? Just ask him. Dan, by the way, you're going to randomly be getting people reach out to you, say, hey, Dan, how many offers have you sent this week? And you're going to smile and think about this moment. I love it. Okay? So we're pushing you forward, brother, one way or the other. I want you to jump off the cliff. Like, you got the parachute. You just don't realize it. I want you to build the wings on the way down. But you have to. I'm telling you. Stop feeling like you need to over-prepare. Let go of the need to have a seller like you and trust that they either will or they won't. But that's not ultimately what's going to help you get the deal or not get the deal. Now, dude, if you were a douche, if you had no manners, if you just weren't a cool person, right? You had a different personality. You were very abrasive, cocky, and brash, and just like used a lot of profanity. Like, I would tell you, okay, there's things we got to work on here, because there's a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, that I suggest and recommend everybody read. I know you've read it. Brother, you got all that working for you. You don't need to try. Just be. Just be. Be, do, have. Okay? Don't put this pressure that I have to have the seller like me, because if they don't like me, then they're not going to do a deal with me. Like, bro, let all that go, man. Let all that go. It's selfish and it's very inward, because it's about what you want. If we're being honest, you want them to like you so you can get a result.
Right.
Right? I mean, let's call it what it is. Let that go.
Yeah.
It's too inward right now. Let's make it about them. And let's just figure out if you guys are a match, but let go of the need to feel like you need their approval, their validation. You need them to like you. And, oh, I can check this box. They like me. Now let's get to the numbers. And I know it's not that formulaic for you, but just let it go and trust it's going to happen naturally, man. Stop caring so much if people like you or not. Look, to your credit, man, you had courage to hop on this podcast and just kind of bear all. I don't think you're too much worried. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't think you're too much worried about if people are going to like you on this podcast. Like, dude, you're just being you. You're just sharing your truth. And you're going to...
Focused on the end result.
What was that?
Just focused on the end result.
That's it, man. You're going to attract your tribe, and you're going to repel the ones that are not meant to be in your world. And that's perfect. You can't be all things to all people. A coach of mine always says, like, you want people to tune you up or tune you out. But you don't want to be in the middle. Right? Don't be vanilla or he goes, don't be vanilla or chocolate chip. Be mint or rocky road. It's like you got raving fans or you got people that just don't jam to you. By the way, I could do a better job of sometimes not being so in the middle, right? But man, like, speak your voice, speak it with confidence, connect with people, but just be yourself. You don't need to prepare to figure out what data to get from them. Just look at your notes, circle or highlight 1 to 3, 3 to 5 things max before the call. Look at it, put a clock on. I got 60 seconds. If it makes you feel better to put 5, but do it under 60. There's the compromise, right? You can put 5 minutes on your clock, just do it under 60. Boom, boom, boom. Then this, then that. Here's what he wants. Boom. Okay, boom, let's go. I'm ready. You just got a standing desk. Stand up, project your voice, puff your chest out, pick up the phone, smile, and dial, man. It's simple. We just overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
All right? All right, man. Dude, we got to end the podcast with something with a little bit more energy, man. We need something here, man. Give me something, brother.
Man, I've been beaten down for the last hour.
No, stop it. Come on. No, you were not beaten down. Now, guys, help me out here. Was Dan beaten? He was not beaten down. Dude, if you think, I got a coach who is going to remain nameless. If you think this was a beatdown, brother, I didn't even put the gloves. This was nothing. This is just like, now I'm being very direct with you and I'm kind of like shaking the tree a little bit because I know that if you take me up on this and you make a different decision and you let go of this neediness, then you can move forward a lot quicker, and it's going to give you more confidence. So I think you said that half jokingly, but hopefully it was more joking. Like, dude, this is not a beatdown. You know I'm in your corner. I'm your biggest fan and advocate. I just need you to, like, just let go of that neediness, man. Let go of that. Like, just shake it out, dude. Like, we're just connecting with somebody about their storage facility. This isn't life and death.
Yeah.
It's not. We complicate things. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, now, dude, give me some confidence here, bro. Come on. Like, give me something to work with.
Oh, what do you want from me? I got some calls to make.
All right, there you go. Stand up, communicate with confidence, man. You got this, brother. We're rooting for you. Just keep building that progress and momentum, but take one or two things you heard on this call. Be mindful. And I'm going to check back with you on the exercise. So I think we're recording again next week. You'll have at least 5 days worth of data. I want to go through that. And I want to see, like, hey, I want to hear your assessment of, like, 9 out of 10 people that I put through this exercise, they have a revelation at the end of it. Like, dude, I didn't realize I was spending so much time on X or on Y or on Z. And now we get to make better decisions moving forward. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, brother. Look forward to connecting with you. Guys, make sure that before we wrap here, make sure you're subscribed to the Storage Wins podcast so that you're notified every single Monday and Thursday with new episodes. And with that being said, share this with a friend or somebody that you think wants to hear it. Connect with us in the Storage Wins Facebook group. And if you want to have a conversation about our Storage Wins community, storagewins.com. We'll set up a super short 10-minute call, see if it's a fit, and go from there. Have an amazing day, and I will connect with you on the next one. Take care, Dan.
Thanks, Alex.